Just want to talk about Islamic terrorism for a moment and whether these people are motivated by politics or ideology, religion. Um, each case can be judged on its merits, and there's undoubtedly cases where politics does come into the equation. But there are people on the left side of the political aisle that will have you believe that every single act of Islamic terrorism is motivated by politics, that there is a political motive to every attack, and that religion is a secondary or tertiary factor if it's involved at all. This is not true. The overwhelming majority of Islamic terrorist attacks are motivated by Islam. Um, a great hero of mine, Christopher Hitchens, wrote a book years ago, a short biography of Thomas Jefferson, and in it, he talked about the time that Jefferson and John Adams went to Europe to deal with the Barbary corsairs, as they were called, the Barbary pirates of North Africa, and they would take white people and black people, and enslave them in North Africa. They would take white Europeans and whites from North America back to places like Morocco, Algiers, Tripoli, and enslave them. And they had the worst lives imaginable. They were so much worse than the black slaves in America. I have read books about slavery in America, and it doesn't compare in the least. It's not a competition, obviously, but I finished reading a book called White Gold about a guy, well, the Sultan of Morocco, a guy called Moulay Ismail, and you should read about this guy and how he treated his white slaves, slaves from England, France, Ireland, Italy, Greece, Iceland, didn't matter, and just absolutely horrific stuff, and nobody knows about it, of course. But these people had to be dealt with because so much American shipping was being interfered with. And yes, they went over and met with the Islamic consulate in London. And Jefferson looked at him very plainly and he said, "Why do you do this to our countrymen? We're a young country. We have no quarrel with the Islamic world. We were not in the Crusades or the war in Spain. Why do you do this to us? By what right?" And the Islamic consulate looked at him right in the eye and he said, "Well, because the Quran gives us permission to do so, because you are infidels." And Jefferson said, "Okay, that's a point of view." He went back to America, assembled a navy, sailed into the Strait of Gibraltar and completely flattened the whole of North Africa, the shores of Tripoli. They just flattened their entire state. And it's a good thing they did so as well, because this had gone on for hundreds of years and involved over 1 million white people. I think it's astonishing that nobody knows this data. But yeah, I mean, you will look at people like ISIS, for example. ISIS had their own magazine out called Dabiq. And just first, I mean, look at how ISIS behave. Look at the things they do. They throw gays off rooftops. Why do they throw them off rooftops? Why would they be going to the trouble of taking them all the way up to the top of the highest building? They could behead them, they could drown them, they could boil them alive, flay them alive, hang them. There's any number of ways that they could deal with the Sodomites as they saw it. They throw them off the highest building in town because it's exactly what it says to do with them in the Hadith. You take them to the tallest building and you throw them off. That's why they do it. This is religion. They're following the books here very closely. This is not something they pulled out of thin air. In their magazine, Dabiq, um, they have a passage or a paragraph called Why We Hate You and Why We Fight You, or Why We Fight You and Why We Hate You, one or the other. And there's a list of, I don't know, 1 to 8 or something, of charges against the West. Number 1 is you are infidels. It's very plainly, you are not Muslim. And these people will, fight us till the day that they die to turn us and everybody else Muslim. Number 2 is because we give our women equality. We have given women equality in the West, and they don't like this. Number 3, it's your decadence and your materialism and all of this kind of stuff. They might have something of a point there. Number 4, you have tolerated things like homosexuality and divorce and this kind of stuff. It goes on and on like this. This is all religion. This is not politics. When you get down to like 7 or 8, it's you have foreign soldiers on Islamic soil. Well, even then, when politics comes into it, it still has religious undertones. Islamic soil, it's sacred Islamic soil, and they don't want the infidel on it. That has serious religious undertones. So even when it does get down to politics, way down the list, religion is still very much involved. So the people it's always the left. They will say that this is not religion because somehow Islam has found itself into the woke brigade's sacred club, along with transgender people, gays, black people, all the ostensibly oppressed people in our societies. Muslims, of all people, have founded themselves into this protected category, which is absolutely astonishing. I mean, first of all, it's not a race. So I'm a white, straight white male. I'm just the devil. But I can now convert to Islam right now, and then I'm part of a protected group that's beyond criticism. That doesn't make any sense to me. If there was an ideology that should be completely antithetical to leftist politics, it should be Islam. The way women are treated and homosexuals and all the rest of it, it really doesn't make sense to me. But they will contort themselves all sorts of ways to make it fit with some ostensible political gripe that they may have, even when the people make a video saying very clearly that they do this for religious reasons. They blow themselves up the next day, they upload a video an hour before, whatever it is, and say, I'm doing this in the name of Islam. I think blowing yourself up is a pretty powerful rhetorical artillery piece, but it's not convincing for some people. Why would they lie when they're ready to blow themselves up? It doesn't really make sense. We've seen it with failed suicide bombers, even in the West Bank, when you would think that a lot of politics is involved here, and I'm sure there is. But the failed suicide bombers, maybe the switch didn't go off or something, and they're all interviewed and asked why did they do this. It's all talk about Allah, the 72 virgins and the afterlife and all of this kind of thing. So religion is far more involved in Islamic terrorism. It is the primary mover. If politics is involved at all, and sometimes it is not, a lot of the times it is not, it is way, way down the list.